Good evening. I'd like to call our meeting to order. Can I have somebody move to approve Agenda 1.02?
Move it.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 7-0-0. Thank you for joining us this evening. If anyone in our community would like to reach out and ask questions or give us your concerns, you can reach us at clerk@fulton.cnyric.org. In the event of an emergency this evening, we can exit out door 6 or go out the main library doors, go to the right or the left, and move out the doors and away from the building as far as possible. Would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Public forum this evening. Anyone like to join us? Okay, just checking. Minutes for 1.06. Can I have someone approve for the August 13th regular meeting?
Move it.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 7-0-0. This evening, just take a look under the President report. We have a few meetings coming up. Our health and safety and policy meetings will be resuming. Those are both virtual meetings. Our first order of business is our school board member handbook. We need to get an ad hoc committee going for that. Once we have that in place, who's interested in working on that, I will send out the, I believe it's Seneca Falls. Heather sent us the book that they have. We also have a book here that Mrs. Perry found for us we could look through. If anybody has any ideas, we can make sure we talk to our ad hoc committee. Who is interested in being on that committee?
I will.
Okay. Who was that? Okay, Jen. Brenda. Thank you. Jen and Brenda. Anybody else like to join us? We need one more. Fallon?
Oh, Mr.
You could go.
Rock, paper, scissors?
All right. Jen, Brenda, and Fallon. And we will set up what is convenient for the three of us to get this started. All right. Thanks, ladies. All right. Also, the executive session change in start time. I know we've had a couple of meetings to go ahead and think about what we want to do. We've had discussion, so I'm just going to put it right out there. I'm going to ask for a raise and show of hands for those who would like to keep the executive session at the end as it is now. If you would like to do that, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 5. And at the beginning, okay. So at this point, it looks like we are going to keep the executive session at the end of our meetings. But remember, if there's ever something that you want to speak about prior, just let us know and we will get it on to talk about right after public forum. Okay. NISBA business meeting, Mr. DeJalour. I think that Mrs. Perry got you all set up for that. That will be on the 4th, or on the 10th at 4 o'clock. All right. And our school readiness walkthroughs will be starting tomorrow. If you can join us for any or all, just so you can see where we're starting tomorrow at Lanigan. Just see you there or jump in when it's available for you guys. Okay? And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Calvino for the superintendent's report.
Yep, and if anybody is running behind at all, please just text me or call me and I'll tell you where we're at. So if anybody who's may not be there right on time, if we've left the first building, at least you'll know to meet us at the second. Well, good evening, everyone. It's hard to believe school starts next week. Our staff comes in tomorrow. So fun times. I will say, I don't know how many, I was working the water station last night over by the ice cream, but the Stuffa Bus event, I'll talk more about it tomorrow morning, but at our opening, one of our teachers, Karen Knoll, she's kind of the spearhead of all of it, and there's many others that contribute and support. But she was so happy, high-fiving. We found out about 7 o'clock she had 512 families. That's up from a high of 297. Huge turnout last night, and just so pleased that to watch our families have that experience. That was the first thing that really got me fired up for the fall. You know, school is coming when we have stuff with us. It's right around the corner. So what a great evening last night to start off this week before school starts. The first item we have this evening on the superintendent's report is Strategic Coherence Plan 24 to 29 and the Strategic Coherence Plan survey results, which will incorporate into the presentation this evening. So I'm going to start off by just thanking all of our different stakeholders over the last year or so, a little over a year, that met and put this document together. And as we said earlier, we're going to give you bits and pieces. So this evening you're going to hear really about Strategic Coherence Area 1, Outcome 1, this evening, as well as the survey results. But just thank you to everybody who contributed. We had an ongoing committee for the District Coherence Council. We had site-based teams working on this every month. We brought them together at the end to really get feedback. We had student feedback. We had feedback in many other forums as we went up through the course of the year. So I believe this plan really reflects and continues to build on the plan that we developed, hard to believe, 2019, and now we're building on that one to take us on the next stage of our journey. So just on the next slide, whoever's driving, thank you. Just a reminder, we did go through the vision, the mission, and the values. We made no changes. Based on that, each of those committees looked at that, and the feedback was it really reflects the work that we want to do. So I'm not going to read those this evening, but it's central to our work. All the work we do brings us back to trying to accomplish our vision for us to be the centerpiece of our community and for our mission to ensure that our kids are empowered to develop the knowledge and skills to become respectful, responsible, productive citizens who are committed to lifelong learning. So it really is the crux of our work. So if we go on to the next page, I'm going to have Jeff is going to be doing the next part, or Renee. Jeff and Renee Hendrickson will lead us in this next section of the presentation. Thank you.
So this next slide represents the comparison between the fall and spring survey. This spring we saw a drop in the family participation in the Strategic Coherence Plan, survey, with only about half as many families responding compared to previous years. In contrast, the number of students and staff remained consistent with the prior surveys.
So what you have on there, just to point out, you fall and spring. So you have the fall results, and then you have the spring results. So we do this survey twice a year. So I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
So the next 4 slides represent the data for our belonging. Our goal was for 90% of the students to feel welcome and part of their community. In the spring, 81.3% of the students reported a sense of belonging, down slightly from the fall of 83.8%. On all of these slides, you can see there's a slight dip from always to most of the time. This next set of slides represent the goal around learning and student engagement. Our goal was for 80% of students to agree that classes are engaging, collaborative, and taught in diverse ways. In the spring, 79.2% found classes interesting, 65.3% frequently worked in groups, and 84.9% believe their teachers explain things in a way that helps all students learn. These results show slight declines from the fall survey as well. And then our last group of slides is around communication. In the area of communication, our goal was for staff, students, and families to agree that the Fulton City School District provides accurate, timely, and meaningful communication. In the spring, 89.1% of families and 94% of staff agreed, reflecting a slight decrease in the family since the fall. So Jack's going to go over the action plan based on the results of those surveys.
Were there any comments or questions around? There's a lot of survey data there. Are there any questions about any of those components? I know you had an opportunity to take a look at them, everybody, but okay, because I thought it was a good place to ask questions if there were any. So thank you, Lauren.
I was just wondering, why do you think there was like a roughly 50% drop in the fall?
We discussed that. We thought maybe the timing of when we released it, you know, we're thinking about this year, whether or not to have it more around the student-led conference time. That might increase it some. There's some other reasons that you're possibly predicting this too.
We also wonder about fatigue. Like, we've had the same survey for a number of years now, so people have seen it. Beginning of the year, we tend to always have better results than we do toward the end of the year for both families and students, but it could have been any number of things. We're not sure exactly why. Based on the comments, though, the people who responded had the areas that they focused on were communication, our celebrations, our activities that we're doing, and improvements that they thought we could make.
Are we going to change the surveys for this year?
That's what we have in the plan this year, and developing a committee that we can develop the questions that we want to ask, but also really define what we think it should look like for each one of them, so it's clear with responses.
With a dip in, we were going fast. So the decrease or in students feeling safe, was that part safe and engaged? Were there comments in that area? So that's sort of.
Student comments weren't very descriptive.
Yeah.
A lot of the student comments were very general and just like, I like my school kind of things, yeah. Or, you know, like, some of the staff and parent comments address some of that, but the looking at statistically the data, the change in data isn't enough to say like we're seeing a trend in any area. It dipped almost the same in all areas, so it's not like it's stuck out in one area over the others. If you look across the slides, where the dip was it kind of shifted universally the same amount, so there wasn't one area that really stuck out. So the short answer, not sure.
So are we going to change all of the surveys, the student surveys, the family surveys? So like you were saying, maybe it's fatigue, maybe the kids, our kids are sick of taking the survey too, so they're just like, meh.
Right,
So that sort of
is more meaningful. I'd like to see one other than just a scale of always, most of the time, rarely, and defining what each one of those looks like, sounds like, feels like, and then that could give us clear feedback of how we can adjust our practices.
So students and staff are looking to change? Okay.
If I'm not mistaken also, I think there were a lot of surveys going on
Yes.
at that time. So like say a little burnout or something.
Yeah, that's the time of year. That
Yeah.
springtime is when everyone feels that survey fatigue. It seems to be inundating us.
So the comments also are in the board backup as well.
They are.
So the comments are in your executive part, so you can take a look at the feedback and align some of those things. I think the other piece is that the students and staff, we probably should have provided the percentages, but the percentages were pretty consistent. The families was the big drop off. The students and the staff are relatively consistent as far as numbers, but the families fell off about half. And so we've got to figure out why that happened. And hopefully Parent Square may be able to help us being able to do that a little bit differently and maybe publicize it a little bit differently. And as Renee talked about, also maybe making it more understandable and more actionable so they understand what does it mean as well.
Would we be able to add like a section in there specifically for like community feedback? Like if students are feeling this way or things like that, like what, to help form that action? Like what, I mean, if we're looking to redo surveys and things like that, that kind of feedback is what kind of change do they want to see?
And that's a great question.
We're going to have to look at collecting data that, well, as you can see here, the results, summarizing them, that middle bullet, being able to collect data that helps us to make informed decisions is going to be important. Like right now we're guessing, we'd like to be more specific and have some more detailed information that drives exactly what we're looking for. Asking kids if they feel safe is pretty general. I think everyone feels a little unsafe at certain times. It's what do we do and how do we handle it when we feel that way? So if I'm feeling unsafe, what happens at school so that I can return to feeling safe, or who do I have that are around? So we want to investigate some of those resources that are there, because saying that we're never going to feel unsafe at school probably isn't realistic, but when we do, how do we respond, and how can the kids have a resource that they can use? I think those are the kind of questions we want to drive into and try and figure out that information.
That's a great idea, but maybe use, what are they called, referrals, things like that, you know, in the hallway, in the passing of classes, things like that. So yeah, I like that you guys are looking into that. It's a good idea.
I'm not sure if this would be Don, BOCES, Mr. and Mrs. Hendrickson area, but looking at maybe, I know personally, I have email and survey fatigue. I get at least, 2 or 3 a day. You gotta fill out this, you gotta fill out this, a lot of great, things, different causes. And so I think that's part of it. Is there any way we're looking at maybe integrating, like you said, with the new software, whatever we're using, maybe not as formal of a survey, but still, like, I guess the data collection is the more important piece, maybe not the instrument that we're using, but what instrument's working well. I was even thinking, like, some places, if we have our 3 main areas that we're looking at, 3 different colored sticky notes in a class. You write a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you write, how do you feel about this area? And then you could collect that and you have different data. That doesn't mean someone's not going to draw a funny picture and stick it to the board. But I think on the whole, maybe you would get more, engagement, maybe switching it up and changing it away so, like you had said, it doesn't look the same. I just don't know if that data and different things like that are out there.
That's something that is in our new plan, to do some interim tiered fidelity inventories of those questions. So maybe asking the questions but at different times in chunks so that it's not as cumbersome and as long. Like we're going to ask a set of questions and then the next month maybe.
We've been practicing the tiered fidelity inventories. Basically, those are more survey, like personal survey, like the person standing in the wall with a clipboard. That's where our student support teams will go out and interview kids or ask teachers and parents specifically, what do you think about this? Can you give me these answers? So that we have, it's a smaller sampling. It's not as large of a group, but doing more of those regular samples gives us a little bit of a kind of a dipstick measurement to see how things are going or how people are feeling.
I'm sure you guys already do this, but I know that you're big with character attributes, especially at the younger ages and in the junior high. Maybe sort of like tie something in with that. The character attribute is, it wouldn't be safety, but being kind to others. So you can, there's different ways to expel information from the kids, so we could go and tie that in.
What if there was something like either a sampling of different age levels, different groups, or just randomly and pull kids out and ask them whatever questions, and then when they give an answer, you can ask them to explain what they mean.
That's exactly how the tiered fidelity inventories work. You grab a sampling of, we're going to grab 10 4th graders from each of the buildings and ask them specifically about this, or 10 8th graders or however, and then follow up with those questions. And that way, when you can better speak to the data. It's not as random, these are the answers that I got, and I was able to follow up and ask these questions and have a little bit more of a detailed response. And that way, we can adjust what we're looking for. Obviously, we need some benchmark data for our strategic awareness plan to say, like, here are the big couple of times a year where we're going to measure the effectiveness of this, but also looking at those specific small pieces in between to help us guide, like, okay, we want to recorrect a little bit or keep doing what we're doing. So those focus areas of communication, data, and celebrations are going to be kind of the drivers for that, so to speak.
And even with the families, the parents and stuff like that, because I know a lot of them, they just don't get on and they don't do it, or it's like they don't feel they have time. If you actually sent something home, hard copy, and have the questions, and then have them send it back, because then you'll get,
Or even something like a standing agenda at our site-based teams to offer that feedback and get that from the community members.
We're also looking at a little bit of a different structure for site-based, exactly for that, so we can have people involved and more opportunity for them to speak up and be part of it. So it's not as, I guess, anonymous. It's more we think that we can get together and brainstorm and have those teams drive a little bit more.
It seems like a more authentic way of collecting data with the tiered fidelity. You know, you're just grabbing kids out at different times of the day, and it just seems, yeah, more authentic than just sitting down and writing it on a piece of paper.
Go ahead, Don. So one of the first things that we talked about when we look at, we have our vision and our mission and then our values. Part of the thing that we realized over the last few years is we've said it's safe to speak up here, what we do is important and you belong, but we haven't really said what that looks like. So one of the things we worked on in our leadership teams this summer was defining that a little bit. And we came up with the Dragon Way, being the three elements of that. Dragons are driven, you can read what's up there, but saying that dragons are driven is defining what it means to belong here, what it looks like as you belong in the district for all of our stakeholders. Being wise, this kind of reflects the ability to speak up or feel safe to speak up when you have an opinion or an idea or a problem. And then resilience is realizing that the work we're doing in school is important, it matters, and it's not easy work, so we have to stick to it and work our way through it. Getting back to the idea of the strategic awareness plan being those three circles: culture, system structures, and then learning wellness and like pathways. I don't know if the best way to think of it is like an egg, right? It develops that middle one, the learning wellness and like pathways. That's the student part of that. That's the, if you go to the next slide, that's taking the New York State pathways of learners and kind of integrating those right in the middle. Then building our systems and our structures around that and the culture with which we support those systems around that. So hopefully that all makes sense in people's heads, but the idea of creating systems that are going to create the habits that have our kids be effective in their approach to learning is what our key is. And that's why this year's focus for all 6 of our buildings for everyone in the district is goal setting. It's not just setting goals, it's creating the system and the habits to drive that goal setting. So we kind of took the plan and laid it out a little bit more like our old plan, so it's a little easier to read. We may put a lot of time into developing something that's a little bit more digestible as far as the way that the plan looks. And then each of the buildings took that and developed their own specific plans around what are the systems that we're going to build toward goal setting. So pre-K to 12 this year, every student is going to work on creating the habits, the academic behaviors around goal setting and what that looks like for them at their school. That way, over the next 5 years as this plan progresses, that's the culture that we create. When you think about that culture around the systems, it's a culture of goals and risks and being able to try new things as a learner, and more importantly, having the kids kind of drive where they're going with this.
Are we using a particular system in place to kind of guide that, or like I didn't know, like a hubby or anybody?
We don't have a program that we've specifically gone with, but we're looking at a variety of things where what we are going to do, again, is programmatically, we're not finding that, but systematically, we're looking at systems for buildings, teachers, teams to check in regularly. So building the systems of how often will we check in and report this out to the stakeholders, to the parents, to the kids. Those are the pieces that people really worked on, was how do we build those structures and systems around.
Direct teaching of how to set goals, how to stick to those, all of the building plans that was in interpretive plans to define how they're going to introduce it to students, how they're going to track it, develop that skill, resources to build the skills, the goal setting with them.
I want to speak to a little bit about the habits a bit we had talked about, or do you want me to?
Go ahead.
Sure. So one of the things is we've all set goals for many, many years. You know, we always have those goals, but everybody has goals, but they always don't accomplish them. What we want to do is we're going to create those habits around all of those systems and supports and the things you have to do. So the classic one that I was reading about was my room is a real mess. I got everything, you've been in my office, right? I'm a pilot, and everything's there. But if I wanted a clean office, I could straighten up that office. But I need to change my habit about what I do to make sure I always accomplish that goal. If I want to have always a clean office, I need to put in strategies that do to create habits that at the end of each day, I maybe take anything that's a priority, place it on my desk, and remove everything else, right, at the end of each day. Because if you don't do it, it starts to add up and you come right back to where you were. It felt really good for that day. So what we want to do is not only create the ability to develop goals and implement goals and have kids work on those and achieve those short-term goals, which lead ultimately to long-range goal, which is to walk the stage at our high school. But it's also those habits for life. There's habits of about, if you want to accomplish something, what are those things you need to do? What are those habits that you need to do? So that's a part of the system of supports that we need to build around kids, because that's what we're trying to do, so that when they move from kindergarten to 12th grade, the 12th graders will be talking about, these are the goals that I'm setting for the next stage in my life, and this is what I need to do, and this is how I'm measuring progress. Then we'll know that our kids have learned those habits around goals. So it's not just the goal setting, but it's the habits. Did you add anything to that, or that was kind of how I interpreted it?
I think you summed it up. It's the behavioral practices, though. It's not just saying, I have a goal, I want to be a better reader, I want to be better at math, I want to do this thing. What are the things that I'm going to do that scaffold myself to that ultimate end goal? Goal gives me direction, but the habits are what take me on the journey. So I think that'll be part of our culture is, over the next 5 years, we want to help our teachers and our parents understand that it's not just about those goals, it's about those habits that lead. Because once you achieve a goal, you set another goal. You work toward another goal, and the habits that you've established and the system that we have around holding those habits up is what's going to be important. So that's year one, is really creating that idea of a system to support our goals. K-12, everyone, pre-K to 12, everyone's kind of working on that.
And what are we seeing up on the screen right now?
So those are the 6 building plans, the specifics with the plans, and their big goal that they have for their building. You'll see that they all look pretty similar. The 7th one is the district focus as well. So the idea that we will, again, come back to collecting data, communicating, and celebrating, that's also woven through each one of these plans. Celebrations are a big part of this, regularly checking in to say how we're doing, make adjustments, and look at that by using the data that's hopefully informing our decisions, and then communicating that out with people so that they know where we stand along the way, both as individuals, as teams, and as a district. So we can start with our first celebration. We're launching Parent Square. We did our first few emails out a couple weeks ago, and this is a great way for us to track our data. It lets us know how many people we've had that are connected. You can see 99.5%, not too bad. I think today when Renee and I checked, there were like 17 emails that we have to go back. A few of them are marked as like spam or unread or no longer a valid email. The nice thing is it tells us specifically who that is, so we can go back, get a hold of them and say, hey, this isn't spam, this is coming from the district. This will inform where we're going and how many people are actually getting our information. Kind of to your point, Lori, we can look specifically and see who's filling out and who's doing the work. More information about email, text, and the app. Once we get that going, you can see email is the primary form right now because it's driving from school tool, but once we launch the app and people sign up for that, they'll get more text and email response. So you'll see this information change along the way as well. But great celebration, we already started it and we've had good response.
Are we doing it with just parents for now and not students?
That's correct.
Just parents?
And I only know that because I read Dan Sherman's email this morning. I have to paraphrase it. So my understanding is that we're going to do just the families to start with the guardians, the main guardians that are in the system, whoever receives mail. And then my understanding is it's at the end of September, early October, we're going to be looking at adding the students. We all got the same email, is that the right way?
That's correct.
So,
Yeah,
yes.
okay. So that would be a really great way, like students are getting it families are getting it. I'm asking this because we're transferring into this in Phoenix, and it is awesome. I'm really excited for it. And I can connect the two, so that makes me even more.
Yes, you can.
Yes. Perfect.
So bringing it back in our closing, those ideas of the Dragon Way, the focus for our plan for the next 5 years is building dragons that are driven, wise, and resilient. If you want to see what those look like, you can go back and check the Dragon Way. That's in all of the plans as well. That's something you never see often. Questions?
How'd you come up with those 3 words? The adjectives?
Team.
Yeah, we did some research on what described dragons, what were they known for, what were positive attributes, and then we kept brainstorming and narrowing it down and getting feedback.
Trying not to be too wordy, trying to be very specific. It went through a few iterations before we landed here.
And the feedback from the site-based teams I heard was quite positive as well about this as well. So at future meetings, we'll continue to give you bits and pieces of where we're at with the strategic coherence plan. One of the goals is, and the feedback we've gotten in the past is how do we measure our progress as we're moving along. So we'll be bringing, examples maybe through TFIs, which would be one way to do that, which is the trend fidelity inventories. We'll do that. And we've also developing a data capturing kind of progress monitoring device as well. As part of this, we looked at a number of different districts and how they manage and monitor their strategic coherence plan and their strategic plans, and we've taken those as well. And we're going to be adapting those for Fulton. And that should allow us, that's always been word, is about how can we actually get some quantifiable data, so that's the goal. Alrighty. The second presentation is our Operations and Finance report. Dr. Lisi.
Thank you. So this is really just a preliminary report. It's pre-audit, so we're waiting for our audit to complete before we can actually give you an actual cash flow report. So if you look at this, just baseline figures where we are now compared to last year, it's really just a regurgitation of our budget figures at this point. But that leads me to a question for the board. One of the things that we thought about doing early on is to conduct a board retreat for budget preparation for this year. It's sort of critical that we do that. Just an opportunity to review the budget process, and maybe go through a little bit of training for that before we get into this year's budget process. So I just want to throw out the board and see if that's something you would entertain.
Yeah.
When we looking to do that?
Up to you. I'm going to do that relatively quick. If we
Yeah,
can.
I think we're used to this. I think we were looking at the latter part of September, let's get out of the blocks, with the kid into earlier mid-October, because we have a NISBA conference at mid to late October, so there's some commitments there. But I think earlier the better, and we really want to put a lens on this. We're running a very tight budget this year, and I think this would be the best way to kick it off. Dr. Lisi and I were talking about this, and the best way is to make sure that you have the skills, the training, and the ability and the questions that you want to really think about the questions you're going to hold us accountable for as we move throughout the course of the year. I think that'll be helpful in our discussions throughout the process, so that when we get to February and get hopefully the right kind of numbers through the formula, and whatever they are, we'll deal with them. But then we can hit the ground running as we run into February, know exactly where we're at. The board will be able to know exactly where we're at in our current, and then as well as how we set ourselves up for the 25-26 school year.
Well, you know how much I love budget season, so let's bring it on a little bit earlier,
Right.
because I can use all the help when it comes to those big numbers and what we anticipate looking forward to. How does the rest of my board feel about doing this?
I could definitely use training, for sure. I would be happy to be a part of that.
So end of September sometime sounds good to everybody?
Yeah, can I make a suggestion though, Brenda? I think I fully support this, although I think it should be revolving. I think that it should be a continual for us.
Oh,
to-
absolutely.
Instead of just like
Absolutely.
one,
Oh, no, it's-
within the fall, right, yes.
Oh, it'll be
We'll
setting
still
us up for these meetings, and if we do more, we can always do budget workshops and retreats,
Yes,
always.
yes. Do this as-
Yeah, And we always, we have a few that are tentative on the calendar too, so,
Yep.
yeah, that's
Each
great.
year we build those in our own budget, but
Yeah.
as to Fallon's point,
Yes, no,
if
that's
we need to
great.
do something in November, we do it. If we need to do something in
Okay.
December, we need to do it and
Absolutely.
take time to put the lens. Sometimes in our meetings here, it's hard to put the level of lens that you may want to take, or not.
Great.
And I'm going to ask the question, do you want us to, we'll put out, I'm assuming, we'll put some days out, but do you want us to include like Saturday mornings or not? I just want to make sure as we put things together, if that's one of the dates you want to put out there. No? Okay, Dr.
Can we look at calendars right now?
Right.
Does anybody know definitely? Is
I mean, I know that a lot of Saturdays in September are.
I just wanted to put that out there. We don't have, I just wanted your feedback before we didn't put it out.
I like Saturdays.
But I know there's a
Then
lot
we
of
move into
commitments.
October.
Everybody
I might
else,
be able to do
but
it, yeah.
I know sometimes we do the off Tuesday from our board meetings. That tends to work well for me. I don't know about everybody else.
It's a good point, Tim. We've always, that's the way our budget workshops work as well. So off Tuesdays, okay, we're in town.
And just as a matter of practice, one of the ways we're looking, if we want to do more of these, to your point, but we also want to keep them short and condensed. So these are going to be relatively short meetings, an hour, because I don't think anybody can take more than an hour of this anyway, to be honest with you. So we'll do a few of those over the course of the budget season, starting earlier.
So if you're looking then at either like the 17th or the 1st, if you wanted to keep it on your time frame.
If we do that, I have, personally, I would have to do later because I have games except for the 1st, October 1st,
So is late
on Tuesdays.
6, 6:30, 7?
Yeah, it's 7. I know. Except for the 1st.
I make it at 7, I'm sorry.
Are people available October 1st? It's a Tuesday.
If we're gonna do it on and off Tuesday, we should be the same time we have board meetings,
So
6
one-
o'clock.
But on this day, you're good if we did it at 6? Yeah. Is everybody good for 6 o'clock on October 1st?
Do you want to do earlier?
6 p.m., is that what we're talking?
6 work for everybody? Okay.
And one at 6.
Thank you.
Budget. Here?
Yes, budget retreat here,
In the library.
in the library.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. As far as the instructional calendar, I just wanted to bring that up. We received the document in June from the state, just identifying that the 10th and the 11th of June are also Regents dates. That's the brand new exams in earth science and in living environment. They have new names. Earth science and space, I believe, and the other one is living sciences and something. So those are on the 10th, and on the 11th is the geometry exam, which has changed as well. So those aren't on our instructional calendar. You did receive a copy of that, so we just added that. The other thing that I'm going to put on your radar, just received some correspondence today, and know that none of the districts have this date in their calendar, but we're considering, we received late spring into June, there was a possibility of bringing a national speaker with respect to suicide prevention into the region. And one of the school districts in the county was kind of having those conversations. He's a national, I think he's from the NIH, which is the national, NIH, yeah, Institute of Health, thank you. He is tentatively locked in on March 31st. That would mean we'd have to shift our March 10th date and our 31st date. We got pretty much a pretty solid commitment today, but I want to make sure we have that, and that's what I was talking with the other superintendents about, because I said most of us would have to change that date. So it would go from March 10th currently as our superintendent's conference date, and we'd be switching that to the 31st. But I would bring that to you hopefully in the either next meeting or the meeting after at the latest, because families need to know if we're making that date change. Apparently it's a 3-hour presentation. I have watched a couple of this presenter's information just on some different things I've been able to find. We're also trying to, right now they're wanting to do it in person down at the On Center with all of the county schools. So we're still looking at that? No, we're talking on the docket too. So Oswego County is talking about, can we pipe it in possibly? So there's a lot of different things we're working pieces. That's why I want to get some more detail before I go and change
The
something in
10th,
the calendar.
is that normally when our county does most of their?
Right now, most of the superintendents who responded to my email inquiry today indicated that the 10th is their current day on the calendar. Yep. So it looks like a great opportunity. But again, more to follow. And then finally, school readiness. So tomorrow night, our walkthroughs begin, and custodians, they're excited. As I walked around, all the heads, I've run into a few of them, and they're just excited. They're really looking forward to it. They look forward to that every year. So those are tomorrow night. We're going to try something different. Corey's going to have a clipboard for anybody that's participating. They'll have a clipboard and have on there. One of the things I don't think we do enough of is I always capture the things that we say we need to improve on or take a look at or fix or something. I never write in my black book all the positive things that you're seeing. So this is an opportunity to write down all the positive things. Then we'll take that and we'll share that. We'll combine it and we'll share it with each of the schools. I think that'll go a long way. They take so much pride in the work that they do. So I think I thought it was a great strategy. Actually, I think Jeff suggested it, and then Corey and Tim are running with it. So I think it's exciting to do that tomorrow night. So we're looking forward to that. Parent Square, you saw this evening, is up and going. Opening day orientation is tomorrow. Our pre-K enrollment is in our full days is 155. We're looking great. We've got 10 kids on a half-day program, but if we get a few more, we'll be able to open that 9th program. Is that right? I think we have 8 right now and 8 and a half, right? So that's great news. Our overall enrollment is sitting at 3,061. Just to give you a comparison, we were at 3,079 on June 30th, so right in the ballpark of where we were. Our beds day last year was 3,106, so when you do the math, there's that natural 40 to 50 again that we have from beds day to beds day, but hopefully we'll be bouncing back a little bit more before school starts. Staffing is coming along. I believe we have just a couple slots left. Is that right, Mr. Klein? Yep.
Yep, most buildings are fully staffed, and we need 2 teachers at Granby and 1 teacher at GR.
Doing exit interviews?
We did not do exit interviews like we did last year. I think because the circumstances of our resignations were very different. However, there is a possibility that if you think we should, we can definitely do the exit interviews.
We definitely
Yeah.
should.
We'll do the same system that we did last year.
Yep, which
Which
worked
we
out.
didn't do until well into the new school year.
And we did that through BOCES, right? So it was
we did the notices and an independent contractor.
yeah, and I think that type of survey is done independently. I think people speak up a lot more.
When did we stop doing them? When did we start and when did we stop? Did we do it for a short amount of time?
The comparison last year was our teacher retention was right above 93%. This year we're above 97%. So we did it last year because we saw such a drastic increase in teachers resigning. This year, it's been a sharp decrease. And so, like I said, the circumstances of the resignations that we've seen, with the exception of a handful, but I'd say 5 or less, have been pretty explainable, whereas last year they were not as explainable. So I didn't see a need to do exit interviews this year because I knew the reason why all these teachers that had resigned were resigning.
This year, meaning just this past school year? This past.
And
This year, yeah.
End of the
End of this
Yes.
year.
Okay.
But
I'm
we
trying to remember.
We
when
can,
it
but
started.
our retention rate rose 4%, so we were in pretty good shape. And that's why I didn't feel the need, but again, it's not a problem. The information is easy to send to BOCES and have them call and do the interview, so would you like to do those?
Very good idea.
Yes,
I
please.
think anytime anybody resigns or leaves the district, we should know why.
And most of these, we absolutely do. Like I said, for all but maybe 4 or 5, we know exactly why. And they're pretty amicable, so. But no, we'll have that started and we'll get going for September.
Let's see here, transportation, the postcards are out. I heard some kids as they were getting their ice cream last night. They were talking about the postcards and that they know the transportation. There was lots of conversations going around. That was one of them. I already mentioned Stuff of Us this evening. The sports, last week the numbers were a little bit weaker, but I just spoke to Mr. Ellis before this meeting, and our numbers are very strong now. So our modified, they were signing up modified kids tonight with the sign up there, and our varsity and JV numbers, we just started practicing this week, right? It seems so late. This year, football started last week, but that's what is going on in Section 3, so that's good to see. And those are all the things I wanted to cover around school readiness. So I think we're very close to ready to roll in our schools. A lot of good things when you walk through, and I'm looking forward to walking through the buildings with hopefully all of you over the next 2 days, and you'll see all the great things that are in our schools and how ready they are. So with that, if there's no questions, I will turn it back over to Ms. Avildor.
Thank you, Mr. Paul.
Microphone's on, everybody. Thank you.
Right, action 4.01, accept financials. That's
Move
it.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 700. Action 4.02, approve disposal of surplus property.
Move it.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 700. Action 4.03, approve tax warrant for the 2024-2025 school year.
Move it.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 700. Do I have to do that for all of them? Because it's only a title for one.
Dr. Lisi, you want each one of those moved?
We can do them as a group collectively.
So we did it, okay, that way. Action 4.04, approve the donation from NYSERD.
Move it.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 700. Action 5.01, approve Committee on Special Education.
Move it.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 700. Action 5.02, approve the 2024 5-year capital facilities plan.
Move it.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 700. Would ask my colleagues if someone would mind, if you would all mind batching 6.01 to 6.13 for the personnel.
Move it.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 700. Look at that. Okay, so we are going to move into board forum. Mr. Crandall, would you like to start us off?
Oh, I don't know. I think we're ready to open. I think everything's looking good so far. See them out mowing and cleaning up, and I think we're ready there. And that's all I've got tonight.
Okay, Mrs. Hutchinson?
I just wanted to touch back about our Step With Us program and what an amazing job everybody did, especially Mrs. Knoll, our community members, our donations that came in, our community members that provided haircuts. I mean, just, it was really an amazing event. So thank you, thank you, thank you. It's greatly appreciated. Our students greatly appreciate it. I also wanted to give a shout out to one of the people here tonight for the 7th grade Welcome Back tour. I thought it was super neat, the Living History tour. Talks about Fulton and, you know, in our history and all dressed up from the 1800s. I also learned that they are going to be taking all the 7th graders over for sort of a field trip to teach them too, and I'm really excited about that. So that's a really great event on September 20th and 21st. What a great community event for everybody. And thank you everybody for the presentations, and that's it.
All right. Santino, welcome this year. We have our senior board representative officially with us for the school year. Go ahead and share some of your thoughts with us this evening.
To be here. I really liked the driven, wide, driven, wide, and resilient thing. I think that's going to help out a lot, especially with building goals. Being able to create smaller, more achievable goals is a lot easier for students, especially students my age. Seeing something that's in grasp, it's like, oh, that's easy. as opposed to something that's big. So creating smaller goals and leading up to that one larger goal that is graduating. I like that. It's great. So.
Well, thank you. And maybe you can next week spread out the word to your juniors, friends, and those in the class below you. If anyone is interested in joining and being that junior in waiting, you can kind of let them know what to expect and, you know, kind of get it a little hyped up out there so that we can have our next board voice here working with you this year. So.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ms. Brown.
I'd like to say thank you to Mr. and Mrs. Hendrickson for the report and Dr. Lisi. And sounds like the schools are ready to go, and I'm looking forward to taking a trip through them the next couple of days.
Ms. Maisel?
Thank you to Mrs. Knoll and for all of her staff of helpers and our Fulton community for Stuff of Us. We really do come together very Fulton strong, like when it comes to these things, and it's such a celebration. The Dragon Way, I am so excited for this. I think it helps give our plan, our strategic coherence plan, a face and an identity, and it's really going to give it a meaning. So I'm excited to see where that goes, and welcome, Ms. Cunningham. Happy to see you, happy to have you here, and I look forward to your student voice because you're why we're here.
Mr. Connors.
It's always harder going later in the rounds, everybody said everything. Again, I thought the presentations were good. They were broken down in such a way that the information not only was worth hearing, I really liked hearing the 99.5%. Hearing numbers that high isn't something we always get as a board. So hearing something like that, and we're talking about the fair and square, was really exciting. And I think I'd like to make sure we thank for the donations and everybody who's helped contribute to all the different events and things going on leading up to the start of school. Everything might seem like it might not be much, but every little bit counts and every little bit helps us to realize our goal of getting these students to learn and eventually cross that stage.
Thank you. Mr. DeJourn.
Welcome to Ms. Cunningham. Looking forward to having you on board. Is there going to be a section in our board handbook for student board members?
Absolutely.
Okay. So perhaps she'd like to be on your committee or partly on your committee when you get to that point.
Yeah, we definitely could.
She could add to what she feels a student board membership, right? Okay.
Thank you for that suggestion. I know that you got to listen to the students at this summer talk about their handbook and stuff, so.
And I'll be talking with her about that one-on-one.
Perfect.
And maybe I could put you in contact with the people that spoke at at one of our conferences, the students.
The students.
And get some ideas from them.
Yeah.
Okay.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Great, sure. And I think that to make it better and easier for you. Thank you to the Hendricksons for their explanation of the strategic coherent plan. Dr. Lisi, as always, thank you for your input. And I think that's it.
All right, thank you. What an exciting time of year, although I never want to see summer end. I know Mrs. Perry doesn't like it this hot, but I love summer. It's hot, we don't have to shovel, sunshine, it's beautiful. But I hope that our students and our staff are well rested and ready to go. I can't wait to see the buildings. It's always so nice to see the hard work that our staff has put in, our custodial staff has put in. And I know when I've been in the buildings a couple times this summer, some of them have pointed out to me some of the things that are going on. So I'm looking forward to the next couple of nights. I also heard from some students who have started their early college high school programs already this week, and they're excited about that. So it's good to know that we're up and running really already before everybody really starts coming in next week. Thank you for the presentations. I look forward to the new Dragon Wise and Determined. I love your little spiel on that. I will memorize those at some point, but tonight, resilience, I like that. So Thank you so much. It was nice seeing the building filled with our 7th graders and their families. And I got to take, and I know some of you were up there too, got to look around and see what's going on up there. So the mayor was up there. He said to say hi. He would have come down, but he's got his booth up there and he's talking with families. So there is that. All right. And with that, we are going to ask if there's anybody in the audience who would like to talk to us for the second public forum. Okay, we will be moving into executive session. If somebody could move 7.03.
Move it. Second?
Okay. Others in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 700. Thank you for joining us this evening. We will return after a brief executive session. Thank you. Can I have somebody move action 8.01 adjournment?
Move it.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 700. Thank you for joining us this evening.